Hello and welcome to The Magic in You, where I am here with Len Roberts, who is one of several remaining first-generation witches who was trained directly by Alex and Maxine Sanders during what some would describe to be the pinnacle of Alex's teaching, and that was during the late 60s and early 70s. Len's experience with Alex's original teachings is that they were more about magic as opposed to witchcraft. And it is in this vein that Len imparts the knowledge that he has gained and evolved through his own practice and experience. For over half a century, Len has remained in the shadows, shunning any form of public dialogue. In 2008, through the encouragement of his guides, he published a booklet entitled A Spark in the Void under a pen name, Ampawea. And in 2022, this book was expanded into this beautiful hardcover edition by Rose Ink Publishing, where the words contained within are about magic and therefore are written in the way of magic. And if you want to get your hands on a copy of that wonderful book, I will put the link below. But what I'm wanting to do now is bring on Len and say thank you for joining me. It's a great privilege and honor to have you talking about the magic in you. Welcome, Len.
It's a privilege to see you and speak to you, and thank you for giving me the invitation. I will try and impart that which people will find useful.
I'm quite sure that they will, even just hearing about what it was like back in the day when Alex was at this, as I said, some people believe the pinnacle of his teachings. So why don't we begin as to what was it that drew you to Alex, to his style of witchcraft and magic, and what else can you impart upon those heavy days of back in the 60s, 70s, in the original circles?
Well, I was of all places in Glastonbury on top of the tour, and in that limbo of what am I going to do? What should I do? And I made a cry. And in the way of magic, I came across an awful book, but King of the Witches, which was about Alex. And at the back, there was an address in the Midlands. So I got on a bus and I went there, was met by two lovely people, Pamela and Patrick, who took me in and introduced me to Alex and where I could find him and gain his teachings and start participating in circle work and so on. That's how I came to it. But as to Alex himself, he had magnetism. I don't know how to describe this, but wherever he was, he would have a crowd around him. He had tremendous magnetism, and it went from there. His wonderful teaching, his knowledge of the Western mystery tradition, and the teaching of the subjects he taught. If I can just, we used to do circle works on Saturdays, and in the evenings in the week, he would teach different systems from the Golden Dawn, Rosicrucian, tarot, in my case, mediumship, and so on. It was wonderful, and it was just a blessing. But I was permanently knackered, mind you, trying to earn a living and do all that training because it was hard work. But I was such a blessing. It was so wonderful to have such a gifted teacher to help me. Never will I forget it. I would have done anything for him, and I did all those photo sessions and so on.
And talking about those photo sessions, what I'm going to do now is share one photo that I'm quite sure a lot of our audience has actually seen before. And just asking, maybe
Oh,
you
that one
can
is.
sort of talk us about it, because here's Alex with his sword, and I understand this gentleman here is you, Len.
That was me when I had long hair, yes.
So could you sort of explain about the photo and what Alex is
Yeah.
doing?
Alex,
And
no mystery. Alex used to do lots of publicity. He never, unlike me, I was completely the opposite. He sought out publicity, and because he was like Gardner, he had that gift of being able to, in the right way, expand the craft, and this is what he wanted to do. And he would, I'll say, would I come along? Would we come along and help him with a photo session? And you saw Galatea; she was in this same one. We were together in this same photo session, um, and and that's all it was. No great mystery. There's no ritual going on here. It's purely publicity photography.
No, wonderful. And it's interesting to see or meet the people who are in those publicity shots, because we see them popping up all the time these days on the internet and in your
Mostly are
book.
dead now. Most of them are dead now, I'm afraid.
Yeah,
Sadly, yeah, there are
yeah.
only a few of us left.
They're very iconic photos as
Mm.
well. So considering you were back in sort of like the early days of Alex and Maxine's coven of the group, and in the introduction, you sort of describe the work that you were taught more along the lines of magic as opposed to witchcraft. Could you sort
Mm.
of explain a little bit more as to why you say it's more sort of magical orientated as opposed to sort of witchcraft, which people often associate his work with today?
The witch's circle, properly constructed witch's circle, I must say, allows you to practice the inner way of magic. It is not magic in itself. The whole process is to, and go through it slowly if you like, but the whole process of consecrating the elements, casting the circle, and then one by one mixing the salt water and the I consecrate incense and fire as well. A lot of them don't do that now, which I can't see why not. But and then elevating the circle with the four elements: the salt, the water, the incense, the fire, and then being able to call the quarters, um, bringing in the four lords of the quarters, and then invoking the goddess and the god and acknowledging the infinite deity. All of those things give us a space in which we can practice the inner way of magic, a pure and consecrated space, not tainted in any way. And in that space, you can do your work, your circle work, your cord magic, raise power. You can do all of those things. But that enabled us to practice magic. It was not magic in itself.
Mm, mm. So
Is that
where
an
was the
explanation?
that's fantastic. I'm just sort of wondering because we're sort of associated with it called, and we call ourselves Alexandrian witches. So where does the witchcraft come into if what we're technically doing is actually magic?
Sorry, could you ask the question again?
No, that's fine. Go by your definition, your description. So, when we're casting a circle and we're sort of
Hmm.
like aligning ourselves, attuning ourselves, worshiping the gods, that by description, as you've just said, is actually magic. So where does the description of witchcraft, what does witchcraft mean to you as opposed to doing magic in the circle?
Witchcraft to me is um, a means of, if you like, between the world of men and the realms of the mighty ones. It gives you that place where you can practice magic. If you go back to the Golden Dawn, the Rosicrucian era, where they had the pillars of Yakin and Boaz, we have the goddess and the god, where they had um, the archangels of the four quarters of the circle. We have mighty lords. All of these things. This is where our system, our witchcraft evolved. This idea that there's some wonderful magical system that came through the ages from ancient times, to me is bollocks. But sorry, that's a magical term. Sorry. But I leave that to, if it works for other people, that's fine. But it doesn't for me. We come through the Western mystery tradition through the Rosicrucian tradition, and Gardner found the Rosicrucian Theatre in Hampshire and met people who evolved that way of working to Skyclad. And that wonderful gifted man, little MacGregor Mathers and William Westcott, they knew how to practice magic, and we picked up their ways and their methods. And that's what we practice. you need power for magic. Power itself is not, power is easy. Anyone can raise power, but you need power and you need to be able to focus and soul the work you do. That's magical. It's, um, it's, I have a definition of magic from William Butler, um, which is second to none. It's the best one I know, but I'd have to go and get a book to read it to you, so I won't bother. Um, but it's making that link with the divine through the conscious, the subconscious, where we can link with the universal consciousness, and then having done that, made that link, then we can bring through that spirit into matter, which is what I like to do, bring spirit into matter.
Mm, mm, mm. And no doubt, I mean, in the introduction, you sort of like moved into the shadows as opposed to some people have been sort of very active in the public eye over the years. But from the shadows, you can observe what's happening in the world and also how magic and witchcraft has sort of like changed and shaped over the years, over the decades, especially in your case. How do you I'm just trying to think. I would say, how do you recognize, or can you recognize the magic that you were taught when you're looking at what people are doing today? And if not, what advice can you give people for today, if any?
If I give you my story, and then I'll give you what advice I can give. Um, when eventually we left Alex's training, the idea was that you would find your own coven and carry on the teaching. But I never I never thought I was good enough. This is truth. I honestly never thought I was good enough. And although I carried on practicing my way and studying, I never thought I was actually good enough to be a guide. And then after about, I don't know, many, many years after I'd raised my family and they'd moved on, I wanted to be with my own again. So I went to find them. I went and found people who call themselves witches, Alexandrian or otherwise. And quite honestly, I didn't really recognize what they were doing, or I would talk about Kabbalah, or I would talk about different ways of magic that I've been taught, and they didn't know what I was talking about, and I didn't recognize what they were doing as Alexandrian magic, that they called themselves that. And so I asked my guide, what should I do? And he said, well, do something about it. And I did. I started doing workshops. My first one was Kabbalah and the craft, and I started doing workshops on the elements and different subjects, and started teaching one or two people, and hence the book. Writing those articles in the book was writing for those few people, and I've done that ever since. I've been teaching one or two people, just a few at a time, in the way of magic and witchcraft, and that's my story. Now, the other side of your question was, what was it? What would I advise people to do now who are seeking?
Yes.
There's an old saying in magic, when the pupil is ready, the teacher will come. I will say, avoid people who can offer you wonderful instant success online. Avoid them completely. Avoid people who ask for money. Um, Covering expenses is okay, but asking for money then go give them a wide berth, because how do you know what you're paying for? You want people like me who don't need the money and can do it without. Um, but I think, stick to that maxim. When the pupil is ready, the teacher will come. It's recognizing you've got the right teacher is a dilemma, and I can't help people with that. It's a tricky one.
Yes, and I think a lot of it is coming back to sort of like self-responsibility and trusting your own sort of, I suppose, internal compass, especially in today's modern world, or picking up, I'll just plug your book again, books from craft out, especially if you're interested in sort of this mysterious style of witchcraft, where you can gain a bit of a foundation to what tradition you're wanting to follow in, because there is so much out there.
Mm.
as well. But what I find interesting is that I also have a magical background myself, so I know about the Kabbalah and so Western style of magics as well. How do you feel, or has that sort of training that you had, that solid training from Alex's initial teachings, how has that, even when you've sort of like stepped away from the craft and gone about, say, shall we say, normal everyday duties, for a part of your life, how has that initial training supported you or changed your perceptions to the world in general in any way, shape, or form?
That's very hard to answer because most of my adult life I've been a witch. That's all I really know. But I think there's a definite role to be played in. You have your mundane world that you have to live in and eat, sleep, and breathe, and that's got to be kept where it is as a mundane world. And then you create your magical world to do your magical work. And the two are two pillars, if you like, two different ways of going about things. I have the ability to be unrecognized most of the time, but I also have the ability to shine that light and people say, oh, he's got something, if that makes sense.
Mm.
Magical people do shine a light and you see them. And you see those who claim to be magical and you say, no, you haven't got an ounce of magic, but you do see the difference.
Yeah. No, that's wonderful. I like that sort of idea that there is that sort of magical life, or what a saying that I used to hear was like, you can be, people can smell that you're a witch. You have that sort of smell or that sense about there's something different, that you sort of stand out from the crowd and people can't quite put
Mm.
their finger on it. So what I'm wanting to do is like sort of like come back to those heavy days of when you were learning with Alex. You said he was a very charismatic man. There was something about him. He always had, people around him. From what stories that I've heard too, he was also a very generous person as well. And it certainly sounds like it. You were just saying very briefly about teachings that you went through. You had a wealth of information, a wealth of knowledge that he readily imparted to students like yourself. Is there anything else? Because for a lot of us too, he's now just sort of a mystical figure. And unlike Gardner, when there's so much written about him, there's actually not a lot written about Alex as the man himself. Is there anything
It's
there
a,
that you would like to share?
it's difficult because I got Alex in his golden age. The Alex of later years I didn't recognize. I'm not saying he went and down a different path of his own. He met Derek and so on, and I didn't recognize him. And I can only go back to that time when I was with him, with Galatea and so on. Um, yeah, um, as to he he would use other people's works and teach through them quite often. People like Franz Barden and the Golden Dawn and so on. And but he did it with understanding and in a way of part of dispensing that wisdom, that understanding. Not wisdom, understanding is the word I mean, so that it got you in the soul rather than in the head. Um, and you can't write down goes into the soul. You can write down what goes into the head. It's a very difficult journey, but he had that way of doing it. That yeah, it was very much a very personal thing that his teaching was. It wasn't academic teaching at all, though he was a very clever man academically. Um, his teaching was very much of an understanding. He could read a phrase from a book and then just add an insight that touched you. I don't know how he did it. I also don't know how he found all that wisdom in his life and who he knew was worthwhile. I mean, you go to the bookshelves in this country, I don't know about Australia, and you'll find them packed with books on witchcraft, most of all I would call rubbish, because it was merely the people's experiences of their own journey. It wasn't any teaching as such. Whereas Alex knew the ones you could go to who had that teaching. Those teachers most of them come from the late 19th century, early 20th century, not modern writers. There are a few, but not many.
No,
My teaching from books all come from that era, the 19th, 20th, early part of the 20th century, late 19th century. I don't really recognize much of the work that's been done since then. it's often just regurgitating what's gone before anyway, in
Yeah.
people's own words.
And especially, I'm probably being a little bit judgmental, which is unlike me. The
Well,
stuff,
I am.
that's a lot of the stuff that you see today, as you said, it's regurgitated, but it's also, can I say, dumbing down? It's just
Yes.
it's simplifying, and it's almost like, and we're seeing this with social media, and I don't want to get on that horse, 'cause I tend to go to that. It's like this veneer, it's this feel good factor,
Mm.
and it's like, let's all be magicians or witches and do magic, but without doing the work, sort of thing.
Mhm. If you go back to Israel Regardie and why he published the Golden Dawn papers, was for that very reason. That wonderful wisdom of Mathers and Wim Westcott and so on have been dumbed down by followers in their different lodges. And so he said his way of dealing with that was to put it all out in the open, to publish his Golden Dawn writings and let people pick the bones out of it for themselves. I'm not saying he was right or wrong. He broke his oath in doing that, but that's what he did for the same reason. And it's true in witchcraft, magic. I can teach magic face to face with people who've got a natural feel for it. I can impart um, a little of the way to find that feel in my writing, but the actual teaching of magic is done face to face.
Mm.
And to be able to do that to a good standard, to a high level, is not easy. And people who call themselves teachers are not. They're regurgitators, as you say, and they dumb it down to their own level of understanding, as opposed to aspiring to get that higher level and to use
Mm.
that.
Mm.
You are quite right. I have no answer to it. I just wish they wouldn't. But
Yeah.
where are the teachers now? Where are they? Where do you find them?
That's true. And then it's like, if you've got something that you want to share, it's like, where are the people who are open to it? And I suppose also in this day and age of AI and everything's being plagiarized, and I think this is one of the sort of safeguards around traditions is the oath, especially if people adhere to the oath, because then you've got that core teaching. But as we've seen with parts of, say, the Book of Shadows being put out into the public, then it gets changed and the meaning gets
Mm,
lost and
mm,
sort of like clouded over, and then we get these half truths running around, and then it comes back, and it's just like, but that's not what it actually means, and then you get called a
mm.
gatekeeper. That's a good question. Do you feel that gatekeeping is important, especially in traditions like the Alexandrian tradition or Gardnerian tradition, in order to protect the essence or the teachings, how they should be taught?
Yes, it is important, but I mean, the Book of Shadows, as I have it, is it's not as it doesn't go into endless depth like people write their own and make them deeper, but it does have the essence, the core, which matters. Let's take those wonderful words of Doreen Valiente, the charge of the goddess. Um, I mean, she is. I think she lived very near me, though I never met her. She is wonderful. Um, you can read them on. It's how to read with words on different levels. Let me give an example, which I probably shouldn't do. Listen to the words of the great mother, who was of old also called a man Artemis, the starting man. At mine altars, the youth of Lacedaemon in Sparta made to sacrifice. Whenever ye have need of anything, once in the month, and better it be when the moon is full, then shall ye assemble in some secret place. Now, when it says once in the month, it better be when the moon is full. If you think of that not as literally when you see the full moon outside, but as Kabbalistically that first step beyond Malkuth into Yesod, the sphere of the moon, that's where we go to get beyond there to do our magic. Once in the month when the moon is full, then shall ye assemble in some secret place. That's it. That secret place, your circle, away from the mundane, elevated, properly cast and elevated. There shall ye assemble in some secret place and adore the spirit of me, who am queen of all witcheries. Not me, but the spirit of me, the living part of me, who am queen of all witcheries. There shall ye assemble, ye who are fain to learn all sorcery, yet have not won its deepest secrets. To thee I will teach things that are yet unknown. And ye shall be naked in your rights, and naked. Um, so you've got nothing to hide from anybody, from the goddess, from you are pure. Even if you wear a robe, it should not be. an embellishment of you to show off. It should be humble, so that you are. You shall be naked in your right, and you shall sing, feast, dance, and make music of my love, and all in my praise, and so on it goes. But it's a way of interpreting those words. The work has to be done on the words in the book. It's not just literally a book as it's read. Did that make sense?
It certainly did, and it's wonderful to hear someone sort of like talk with the passion, and as opposed to, we see people just reading it out of a book or whatever, but it's just like, as you said, it's more than just the words. And it's
Mm,
just like all magic, there's always, I see it very symbolic, there's always a different level. And when we're looking at, say, either the Book of Shadows or magic in general, everything's cyclic. We work with the wheel of the year, and each time we come back to the starting point, it's either we've gone up a level, if things start making it
that's right. It's
a
not a
different.
circle, it's a spiral. Yes, I agree entirely. That's how I always describe it. Yes.
Yes, and it's just
Excellent.
like,
Thank you.
I'm glad I've got it right too. And it's just like, so where I am, I'm coming up to Imbolc or Candlemas, and my garden is beginning to, amongst all the weeds, I've got the jonquils beginning to show. And yes, this
Mhm.
happened last year, but this year, every year it's different. And I think that too is, as we keep walking the path and circling around, we're going up, we're noticing more, we're going within more as well. And to me, that's magic as well.
Mm. Mm. Oh,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. Um, there are training exercises you can do that make it even more um, personal. I think one I've done with people, and I'm not giving anything away here, is we go for a walk for an hour somewhere in absolute silence, and I say to the people I'm with, pick a system of divination that is one that you like. It could be Kabbalah, it could be tarot, whatever, any system you like, and everything you look at, see, breathe, think about, how does it relate to your system? So if you've picked to, I don't know, Kabbalah, and you see um, a leaf that's fallen from a tree, that's regeneration. How would you fit it on your tree? And that would be the turning point of Kether on the journey. Sorry, Malkuth on the journey back up. And and every thought you have, why did I think that? Then I thought of that because I'm working in maybe the sphere of Hod, and so on and so forth. And everything, and that lasts for an hour in silence. And you'll learn more about your methods of divination, really learn more than all the study in the world will do, because you're putting it to the test in reality. Was that being useful to anybody?
I'm quite sure it is. And especially in this day and age where I said a lot of people learn stuff online, and this is I think what this is
Oh,
what you're getting back to. The essence is getting out into nature and putting it into practice, putting it into use. And then it's also that sort of self-analyzing, that sort of self-discovery as well, that takes you to that deeper level, that deeper awakening.
mm,
And I don't know if that is where the mysteries are, but what I would like to do is just read a short little passage from your book, and it's got one of my sticky
mm,
tabs on it because when I was reading it, I've got all these tabs on your book. These are things that really stood out to me. But you wrote here that there are very good reasons why magic or the mysteries is a way for the few. A scalpel is a wonderful tool as long as it's held in the hand of a qualified surgeon. And I think this is
mm,
what people don't understand, that magic is real. It's not something to play with. You, at least
mm,
in my perspective, you need to have a foundational understanding of what you're doing first before
mm.
you step in
Yes.
it. And you're basically wielding like a scalpel, like you said,
Mm.
and you can do a
Yeah, I
lot of
stand
damage.
completely by those words. I really do. Yes, yes.
Mm.
Yes, you have to learn your craft. You have to really know what you're doing. Yeah.
Mm. And I think too, especially in this day and age of instant gratification, it's the patience. It's
Oh,
the
yes. Can
magic
take
isn't,
months, years. Yeah.
yeah,
There's
cannot
no such
be.
thing as instant wisdom.
No, no.
Well, not
And
for
you,
me anyway. Others maybe, but not for me.
And there's no app for it either that comes through
No.
the hard patients.
Mm.
So we're coming to the end of our time together, Len. I just thought, first, a few more questions. Is there anything that you know now that you wish you knew at the beginning of your journey in those early days?
Gosh. That's difficult. I would say that at the beginning of my journey, I was a student of magic. And where I am now, I'm still a student of magic. So nothing has actually changed in that respect. I can do more things, I suppose. Um, I can't really think that I have an answer to that. It's an ongoing process.
I think that's
Um,
perfectly fine. Yes.
mm,
And I think this is what also that people need to realize too, is that, as you said, magic is an ongoing process and we're always going to be students, regardless.
Here's an example. I I can find something written in magic and written, and I think, yeah, I get that in my head, but I don't get it in my soul. And I'm looking at it, and and then one day the insight comes, and I go through that door, and I think, wow, I've done that. I understand now, and I mean understand, not know. I understand. But when I'm through that door, I see a dozen more doors in front of me that have just been ready and need to be opened up, and that's how it goes. And that's the
Yes.
process. So that's
Yes.
why I find your question so hard to answer. It's never
And
been a mm,
no, it's almost like an onion. It's like you peel off one layer, then you realize like there's so many other layers beneath it. It's just like, oh my
that's
God,
it. Yeah.
there's so
Yes.
much more. And I think
Mm,
too, in our modern age, that I suppose even when I was beginning to sort of walk this path, we had a limited amount of knowledge available.
mm.
We had to really look for it. These days, it's everywhere, and it's almost like it's overwhelmed, and people do not know
Information
where to
is
start.
everywhere, not knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
people don't know where to start, and they try and
Mm.
be magpies and
I do
collect
feel for them.
everything.
I really do. We need teachers, but where are they? I mean, proper teachers,
Mm, mm,
not
yes,
self-appointed high priests and high priestesses who like the title and wearing the robes. Proper teachers who can sit them down in their front room and say, "Let's do some study and let's do some real work."
yes. Yes, and that sort of leads me into the next question, which I think you already have answered, is what advice do you give to the seeker today? I think we have sort of answered that, but just remind
Mm.
us what advice, especially for someone who's sort of like being drawn to, they've heard about Alexandrian Gardnerian witchcraft, they're interested in that. Where should they, what advice do you give them?
Um, well, you make your cry for help by all means. Make your internal cry to the goddess, the god, the goddess, the deities for help. But follow the maxim: when the pupil is ready, the teacher will come, and you have to be ready. Why do you want it? Is the question that a lot of them. Is it because I can use magic, so I can do great things, or is it because um, I know people who are practitioners who who are always looking for magic to help them. And I think it's like if you're calling it in, you've got to then share and give and pod. If you don't have that free flow of in and out, you have a blockage, and that blockage will eventually become festered and become a cesspool. And so people try to cure that cesspool by calling up for more and more help. And all it does is help feed the cesspool instead of you give in order to receive. You need that free flow. Why do you want to practice magic? Do you want to practice magic to do something wonderful in the world, or do you want it for your own satisfaction? There's a big difference.
And I suppose it's getting
We
into
share
what
the
some,
light.
yeah, some
Yeah.
people have talked about, like to be of service. And you said share the light, share that
Mm.
knowledge,
Yeah, we
sort of
learn in
help.
order to serve. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. I think that's a really wonderful sort of thoughts to end on. Um, but I've got one more question I've just thought of, so that's very bad
Mm.
of me. What inspired you to republish, expand A Spark in the Void? What was the push? Because you did put it out originally in
Oh,
2008.
mhm. Well,
Uh,
many years ago, I was guided to write a magazine, and I thought, I'm not doing that. I don't want to publish about a magazine. And so what I did is I took some of my writing and I created a small book. And it's almost like a freebie I give away. I've seen it advertised online for £100, but I've tried more to give it away. And then through a colleague of Maxine's, I met a publisher, Sharon, and we got talked into doing an expanded version. So I put more of my writings in there, with also some of my illustrations, because I did draw a bit. I had a stroke, so I can't do that anymore. But, yeah,
Just trying to just see if I can quickly flick through and
yeah,
find it in illustrations, but I've found a lot of your poetry or your
mm,
prose, which is
mm.
beautiful, but it's written, here's a picture, but it's sort of, it's, it's written
Yeah,
in a, sorry,
those are that's some of my drawings. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but even the prose is sort of written in a way where it's almost like someone speaking to you, but it's not, it's almost like a riddle, and you
Yeah,
have to sort of,
that's how it must be, because each person must find their understanding. You can't tell people. Magic is not the intellect. Um, Magical writing talks here, not here. Talks, and it should go that way. All symbols are the language of magic, and if everything in magic, there is the written word is the magic. Is the language of the intellect, but symbols are the language of magic. So we use words as symbols, and that's what I do. I hope that makes sense.
it does, and I think this is what sort of makes your book stand out because of how it's written. It's one of these books that you sort of take a section, a paragraph,
Mm.
probably just a paragraph. You don't need to read the whole sort of chapter, and
Mm.
then it's almost like a meditation as you go through
Yes,
the book.
that's great. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's wonderful. So I've just sort of got away from that wonderful sort of sign off that you had for the students to sort of like start moving from the head into the heart to climb up to the
Mm.
toe, or where they've got something similar where they
Mm.
are, and to
Mm.
basically ask for guidance from the divine, from the
So
God,
this is your
goddess
Ayers
source.
Rock, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
I was we're not allowed to climb it these days, but we've got
Mm.
other places that we can go to. So
Mm.
once again, Len, it has been an absolute delight to be chatting with you today. I'm just wondering, because sometimes you do the odd talk in London or
Mm.
around. Do you have anything coming up or planned, or is there any way
I've
if
got
people want to
another
get?
online one. I've got an online one which I think you've done in February. The American one.
Oh, in which con? Yes,
Which one I'm
yes.
doing that? Yes, yes.
So you do coming and going back in next year in
Hmm.
2026?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
I did it last year for the first time. I'm going to do it next year.
Well, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So I'll put the links to that below. And do you have anything happening in England or not
Yeah.
yet?
With people I work with regularly, yes. And things do crop up. I might get invited to go somewhere and do it. And I try and oblige. Um, Sometimes I say no because I don't believe it'll work, but I try and oblige.
And
Because
and how?
the thing
Sorry.
is now, I mean, I'm an antique witch now. I mean, I'm 79, and from those golden days with Alex, and because there are so few of us left, it's I want to share what I can and hope that it
Mm,
leaves other people the job of taking over and moving on.
no,
It's
that's mm,
we learn in order to serve is the golden rule, isn't it?
yes,
It's how
yes,
can I serve? Yeah.
yes. And if people want to get in touch with you, would it be best for them to go through Rose Ink Publishing or?
Yeah, I'm not online. I don't do Facebook or anything like that. If they want to get in touch with me, yeah, I'm sure Sharon would pass on any
Pass on
messages.
the
Yeah,
details.
yeah. Mm,
Okay, that
mm.
sounds wonderful. So Len, thank you very much for passing your knowledge and coming on board to share the magic in you. It's an absolute delight and wonder. And for people who are interested, they can catch you hopefully next year, 2026, at WitchCon.
And thank you for taking the trouble to give me this opportunity to share. It's
More than
really
welcome.
appreciated.
More than
Blessed be.
welcome. Blessed be.